Adrian will say, my name is Adrian. I will say, I'm Alex. And then you can say, you are Jeffrey. I was going to say Jeffrey Dahmer, and I was like, that is not the person you want to.
No, I do not want to.
I am so sorry.
Did y'all not know I made a game? All right.
Anyway.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Dungeons and Degrees. My name's Adrian.
And I'm Alex.
And today we have Jeff Baker of Win Suddenly here with us talking about The Crypt Has Opened, which I've had the pleasure of playing, which is a very fun system. And I would love to jump into more games, but usually I'm already either doing a recording or editing whenever the call to action is happening. But welcome, Jeff.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to be here. I'm always up for talking about The Crypt Has Opened. So if anybody says, hey, you want to do it? I'm like, yes, I'm there. Win.
Win. Now. Right now.
Oh, let's go.
So tell me, how did you come up with this game?
Sure.
And we'll kind of continue from there.
Yeah. So it's backwards from a lot of other people. So 2020, it happened, right? And
what happened? 2020?
Oh yeah, 4 years all of a sudden passed, and here we are. No, I got on TikTok originally for voice acting. I was kind of doing that whole thing and trying to make that a career. And but I'm also a tabletop role player, and started running across that whole community and D&D TikTok and just TTRPG TikTok, and just fell into that community and fell in with a bunch of other people that were starting to design games. And I was like, well, I have dabbled with making games, and I'd always wanted to make a game about wizards dueling each other, and really being like, I wanted that dueling to be very dynamic, kind of, even though I'm not a fan of the series now, but the inspiration was Harry Potter, where you do have two wizards actively trying to counter each other and do spells at the same time. Like, there was a very cool thing going on. I was like, I want to make a game like that. I failed at making a game like that, but this got out of it, and I'm still very excited about it.
You came out through the other end. You're still good.
Exactly. So really what it came down to was I started just working on the dice resolution mechanic first. That was the first thing I started doing. It just was like making notes. Here's kind of how I want that resolution mechanic to work, and just sat at my coffee table rolling dice and just noting the outcomes and being like, what felt good? Oh, that seems really cool. And just kind of making changes and notes. And then from there, the setting kind of wrote itself as I was doing the dice rolling. I can't even remember what the original inspiration was for why cryptids kind of jumped into my head, but I was like, yeah, what if it's cryptids? Oh, modern day. Oh, you're magical practitioners, because I still wanted it to be about magic. And then it just started flowing, and then the crypt kind of jumped out at me, and just started writing the setting. It just was like, one of those, like I say, kind of think somewhere in the book, I was like, it's what a lot of designers and writers always are hunting for, and it's that muse just to come to you and go, here, write these words down. Yes, and you just go. So I was very lucky in that regard. The setting has just been what it's been. Nothing's really changed with that. It's the mechanics that have gone through the most iteration through playtesting, but yeah, it's been fantastic.
Okay, so is it the cryptid open, or is the crypt is open?
The crypt has opened.
Oh, has opened. Listen,
yeah.
I'm not
so, and it leans into a very EC Comics Tales from the Crypt aesthetic, 1990s specifically. So you got to think of that poster, right? Mars attacks. That it has that kind of like. Mm-hmm. So that's why you're going, the crypt has opened! Exclamation point. So it's a very active title, not just one word. It's like, oh, it's happened. It has opened. Huh.
You
you
got
know,
that transatlantic like
yeah.
voiceover just explaining you
Ladies
in.
and gentlemen, the crypt has opened.
What will our heroes do this time?
Tune in next week. Oh, fantastic. And then I chose the 1990s mostly because as a reaction to all of the 80s, I think, focus stuff. Stranger Things really brought that back, and I think Kids on Bikes and things like that really lean into that era. And I was like, well, I'm a 90s kid. And when I say that, I was born in 82, which means my formative years are deep in the 90s. And
I
so
would agree with that. Listen, I think as like if I think that's the way we think about it, right? Like if I am a 90s kid, I was born in the 80s and the 90s are where I received my input.
yes.
Right? If you were I that makes sense to me, and I don't know how other people receive that because
You know
that's,
how it's received by other people.
no, honestly, like that is one of those things, and I don't know if it's just the way that I think about the world, but I was like, if you say that you're the 90s kid, like I'm a 90s kid. I was born in 89, so like I'm familiar with enough.
Right. You gotta start asking
lore.
questions. Do you remember where you were when you saw that white Bronco slowly plodding down LA? And if that person can answer those questions, then I know if you're a 90s kid or not.
It's true.
Fuck. Is that an O.J. Simpson thing?
That's an O.J. Simpson.
Context clues.
But the thing is, I watched it live, right? And I like those are clear memories that I have. So that's when I'm like, you know what? Those what inform you? Did Nirvana inform you in your style?
I don't remember OJ, but I do remember waking up with Princess Di. Like my parents like woke me up to go.
Wow.
Yeah, I was obsessed. With her.
Go.
So like.
Well, so all of that to say, I wanted to dive into an era that has not had as much play that I still think is very interesting, and it's also pre computer revolution. Pre cell phones, really. Like cell phones were just starting to personal computers were just starting to make it into every home. People really didn't start getting a computer in every home until early 2000s. So I was like, okay, cool. The 90s is still the really great time. We got Jinko jeans. Fashion is just very iconic to me. Bucket hats, oversized clothing, JanSport backpacks, chain wallets. Everybody's wearing a Looney Tunes character who's got saggy pants. It has such a very distinct look to that time period, and so I was like, let's just lean into that. I think it'd be a lot of fun, while adding the kind of Tales from the Crypt, EC Comics vibe, grindhouse horror, gothic horror, kind of on top of that. So we're kind of melding those two together in a very fun way, I think. So in the game we say, if it happened in the 90s, you can reference it. Because the game itself, while the... how about this? Let me just dive into this portion of it, the setting itself. So essentially, sometime in the 1990s, the apocalypse came not with a bang, but with an exhalation of a crypt door. Literal crypt doors erupted out of the ground all over the world, and when they opened, releasing the mist, and with it, malevolent spirits and cryptids, and evil cults start to worship it, and it nearly wipes out the entire world. It is an apocalyptic event. You are now playing magical practitioners because magic also was bolstered after the crypt had opened, and you're turning around to push back against the crypt and reclaim what we call the dead spaces of the world. So if you're familiar with Stephen King's The Stand, it's that kind of place in society. Most of the Midwest is gone or has been overrun by the crypt. You just have little pockets of communities and people trying to now go back into these major cities that are now just overrun with spirits and cryptids and vegetation, nature, and trying to reclaim them and restart civilization. So this isn't a secret society kind of thing. This is a very open, everybody knows these things exist. Magic is real, and now we're trying to do something about it. But everybody's kind of stuck in that 1990s culture because that's when it happened. So everybody just kind of got froze in that time period, and they're now trying to push beyond it and reclaim where they were.
In creating that character, I had to be a little bit more aware about what was there or not, but also like I have magic, so like let's just focus on the magic bit. It was a fun time, and I really liked the adding up of dice into your pool to have like more dice in your hand. 'Cause that's always a nice feeling.
It is fun, and it's been I'm not necessarily a fan of dice pools, which is kind of funny that I made a dice pool game. But I did keep it very limited in the dice pool. It's 3 dice that you're rarely are you ever going to roll 4. We do have an advantage system that we've just added recently, but at most you're going to roll 3 dice. And so the resolution mechanic, and basically what it came down to when I was making it, I was like, what if you had 2 dice that you're rolling trying to beat 1 die, and that die is the difficulty of whatever the task is, and we call it the imposition die. Basically, whatever the imposition of the obstacle or the task, and it's a really cool way for the player to very quickly know how difficult something is. D4 very easy, D12 very hard. So I know right off the bat in this game we call the game master the Crypt Keeper. If the Crypt Keeper says, "Hey, here is a D12 imposition for this task," that player knows I'm doing something pretty dangerous or something really out there. Now they have ways of lowering that imposition, but right off the bat we know what that is. But on the player side, they have their what we call the spell die, basically the equivalent of their level. It's how powerful they are with magic. And then they have, their paths, their magical paths. Every character has this access to the same 5 magical paths of magic. These are like the fundamental laws of magic, if you will, or ways of people practicing magic, and that is, see if I can remember it off the top of my head: ceremonial, creation, crypt, folk, and hex. Those are the 5 fundamental magical paths, each rated, like everything in the game, on a D4 to a D12. So if, for instance, like you have a scenario, you're a group who are hunting a Jersey Devil, you're in old Detroit, a old steel mill. I always have a hard time with that one. You're going through it, and you disturb the Jersey Devil's nest, and it pops out. So in this game, we don't have initiative. In fact, even in our book, there's no such thing as combat. We call it narrative confrontation, because we don't want players to feel like, I should say it this way. I always feel like if you put the section combat in your game, that's telling the players what you expect out of the game for them, or how you expect them to solve problems. Problems need to be solved through combat. So by narrative confrontation, I'm hoping to kind of subtly, psychologically move people away from combat and saying, oh, I can solve a problem through other means. So that Jersey Devil pops out. One player may result to, I'm going to shoot a little fireball at it using my hex magic. And another player can go, well, I'm really good with cryptids, which is crypt magic. I'm going to try to subdue them. So you have 2 methods to try to deal with this problem. One, a violent confrontation, and one, a non-violent way of dealing with the confrontation. So the player that decides to subdue the cryptid, me as the crypt keeper, I'm looking at my stat block for the Jersey Devil, which will generally is just like a paragraph maybe.
Mm-hmm.
It just has a level die, which is its imposition, how much it's going to impose upon the players. So anything a player ever does towards that Jersey Devil, in this case, we'll say it's a D10.
Mm-hmm.
We know it's a D10, and I'll tell the players like straight up, hey, in this scene right now against this Jersey Devil, anything you do against it, it's a D10. So we all know what we're getting into. The players have that information to then make informed decisions, which is really cool. So then they can go, okay, well, its imposition's a D10. I have a crypt die of a D8. My level's a D6. I'm going to roll a D6 and a D8 against a D10. The Crypt Keeper does no rolling at all. It's all player-facing rolls. So the player will grab those 3 dice and roll them. Their goal is to make sure that the values on their 2 dice are greater than the value of the imposition die. That's it. That's all. No adding up. We're just comparing the numbers on the dice. So if the 2 numbers on my spell die and path die are greater than the imposition, that's a full success. I have subdued the Jersey Devil. It's no longer mad. However, if the imposition is greater than one of the other 2, meaning I just have one that's greater than the imposition, one that's lower than, I have a success with consequence. So I may subdue the Jersey Devil for a round or for a moment. It's still agitated. It's still, that's the consequence. You didn't fully, calm this thing down. It still wants to bite somebody's face off and may do it in a moment unless y'all do something. If the imposition is greater than the other 2, that is a failure. You don't calm the Jersey Devil down. It lands on top of you and rips your face and does some damage, or that could be a potential consequence.
Right.
So since there is no initiative, it would just be whoever feels like they're going to act first, and then we just popcorn initiative around. Who wants to go next? Who wants to do whatever? And that means that your opponents act only during those success with consequences and failure moments. That's when they react. So they're always reacting to what the players are doing. So which makes the narrative really fun and exciting and dynamic, because a failure could really, if everybody goes after this monster and everybody rolls a failure, that means that monster gets 5 reactions if there's 5 players at the table to beat up on everybody. Do something. So things can go really poorly, which is fun to beat that whole action economy problem that we have with a lot of other games, where it's just like, we just dogpile the single monster and win. Well, maybe not.
Yeah.
But with failure, what's interesting we also did was, instead of just you fail and then something bad happens, you gain an experience point. So, cool, you failed the roll, but you get an experience point, which is a way for us to also encourage players to maybe roll or use magical paths that they aren't necessarily good at. It's like, if I have a low ability in this magical path and I fail, that's okay. I'm going to get an experience point out of it and a cool story cool story point. But if I succeed, cool, I defied the odds, kind of a thing. And that's the mechanics on a very base level. There's a lot more going on, but that's it at its core. I can ramble, man.
No, it's all good.
There's no rambling.
This podcast's made for rambling.
No. And you
I think
told us
there's
how to
something
play
beautiful.
the game, so there's no rambling.
Yeah, exactly. This is our narrative game.
Yeah. And now
there's
you've
something
given us
beautiful
a
about-
reaction, so we can react.
There you go.
Something beautiful about failure.
Mm-hmm.
I think it tells a better story than someone who just intrinsically wins at everything
Mm-hmm.
or succeeds at everything.
Yep.
Because there's no arc, there's no like imperfection that you can potentially like, this person messed up, but now they're gonna work hard. It's
Mm-hmm.
like this guy's flawless for no reason. I can't. This guy's inhuman. There's no like
Yeah.
relatability. You
Oh,
know.
none at all. I'm running. It's gonna be my last 5e game because we started it
Ooh.
like a year and a half ago. So and it's a module, and we're good friends, and I'm just feeling like we'll finish up this module, and then we're gonna move on. But it'll be my last 5e game, and they just hit level 11, and the rogue goes, "Oh, I can't roll below a 10 on anything I have. I'm proficient in."
Or expert.
And I looked at the module and I went, "There's not a single hidden door, and there's not a single lock in the rest of this module that you can fail." And it's just like, okay. And it really, to me, deflates the whole, because they're like in the big mega dungeon that's supposed to be super scary and it's supposed to da-da-da-da, and you're like, oh, well, that takes all the scariness out of this place, all the intrigue, like you're saying, that you can't fail. So all right,
all that like when the dice spins, you're hoping for a good roll. It's like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I can't roll lower than a 10.
Yeah, so you're like, whatever. So so failure is very important to this game. It's also important for a horror game, I think. Specifically, since this is a horror game, I had mentioned previously, like with the mechanics, currently it's a meet to beat kind of situation. Your 2 dice just have to meet the imposition value to beat it.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also played it to where you have to beat the imposition. Tying it is not a win. You have to beat it. And it creates for a much harder game, a much more horrific game. And I've had certain players that loved it. They were like, oh, I play horror games because I want things to go horribly wrong and I want to lean into the failure. But I will say that does put a lot of work on the GM side at that point, which is why I think I got rid of the GM needing to roll, because then all your brain power is focused on, well, what does that failure mean? How do I weave an interesting moment out of that doesn't just completely demoralize everybody, that there leaves some glimmer of hope, but also lays on that you are losing. And what are you going to do about it? Because that's, to me, it's that movie moment or TV show moment, right? In the last 10 minutes, how are they going to get out of this? Everything is just keeps piling on and piling on and piling on. They're not going to win. They're not going to win. They're not going to win until somebody pulls out the big thing that just turns the tide. So that's
Deus
really
Ex.
Exactly. So that's a really important thing to me. In fact, players have a lot of abilities in this game that are just win buttons. That they have to spend some resources, and by the time they get to wanting to press that win button, they've already spent a lot of their resources, and pressing the win button might knock them out. Like, this is going to do me in. But we're at a point where somebody has to press this button, if you will, to get us where we need to be. So it's a lot of fun.
Right.
It works really well together.
Do you feel like you're still working on the role mechanics at this point in time? Because like, I know you're still doing play tests. Like, what is the thing you're focusing on right now?
What we're focusing on right now is actually long form play. One shots are great. I've run so many one shots at conventions and online, and it's like, wow, it works really, really well. How is this going to work over 9-10 sessions? I have leveling up mechanics, but I haven't actually seen them in action. How long does it take for a character to level up? Because it's all based on failing rolls. So I need to see, are players failing enough to generate enough XP to level their character up? And how long is that going to take? Because you definitely have, hey, give experience for milestone kind of stuff. Like if they're going out to solve a mystery, did they solve the mystery? Did they say, they'll get an XP point. Did they save the person? They'll get another XP point. You'll kind of have like a chart that says, did they hit all of these little points in this story? For each one of the things they hit, we'll give them a point on top of whatever failures they've rolled. I just need to see that in action. We also have a town building mechanic. So the players, we ask 10 questions on a one-shot. The entire group builds a town together in the first 30 minutes of a game, one-shot. It's like, hey, answer these 10 questions. And it's really awesome to see everybody collaborate, make this little town, and then I weave the town into the one-shot. Yeah. And make people really care right off the bat as I start messing with the town that they just built. They're like, whoa, but our town, our people, don't do that. I just fell in love with these people.
We just met.
We just met, but I love them. Yeah. So yeah, you do stuff like that. Well, we have an expanded version, which is it's basically a character sheet just for the town. Follows the same mechanics as a character sheet. They have the town will have a prominence die, which is basically how prominent that town is within the area. It will have 5 civic paths: offense, defense, necessities, luxuries, and indulgences. And they rate those, all those kind of, I had one group, they really leaned into indulgences, which is like gambling, violent sports, and intoxication, I think is what it is. And so they're like, we want a lot of points in intoxication. We want to be a rum running town, on the Mississippi. That's what we're known for. And violent sports, and our violent sport is Mayor Day, the election day, and everybody can always challenge the current mayor, and if they beat him up, they become the new mayor. So every day is election day. And somebody else is challenging the mayor to beat him up to become the new. It was hilarious. Anyways, and so they built that system. Yeah, it's great. So they built that just with that town mechanics, and that town can level up as well. When we have experience points, what I decided to do is not just, hey, you can spend experience to advance your character. You can also, everybody can pool their experience points together. For every 4 that the group spends, they can increase a quality of their town and make something better. And that's, kind of the representation of everybody in the town working together to make it bigger. So you can play a campaign that's really just focused on, we want to take a town from a D4 to a D12 in prominence. We want to see what happens and go out there and collect new housing or build housing or whatever.
What does that mean for this kind of environment, this setting?
Right. What kind of enemies are we going to draw attention to, the more prominent we get in those kinds of things. So you can have a game like that. But we also have another thing called story beats that, thank you, Monty Cook Games. I stole it from you. From Cypher System, which is you can spend 2 experience points to have a story beat or make something true about a scene. So how many times have you been playing a game and you ask the GM, oh, we're in this grand ballroom. Is there a chandelier above the enemy so I can maybe shoot it and have it fall down? Instead, you just go, hey, I'm going to spend 2 experience points. There's a chandelier above the bad guy. All right. There is. So it gives players some agency, some way of having some more impact on the scene and the story. It costs, a little bit. It's not free. But I've seen players use it. They'll say, oh, wait, I'm going to do this thing. I'm spending my 2 experience. And they love it. So it has worked out quite well. So to answer your question back then, role mechanics are fine. Leveling up and town mechanics, that's what I'm
currently
trying to see if it works.
how do you get people to I guess test these things out? Like, is there like a group that have been very dedicated to helping you out, or is it just anybody you can find?
There have been a few very dedicated people, but for the most part, scheduling is just really difficult. My playtime during the evenings during a week starts at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which means I really can only get people out in California for the most part to play. But other than that, then it's just always scheduling. So getting playtesters has been fairly difficult. That's why I haven't had a really long chance to do a long-running campaign. We just started. We literally had our first session for the first, like, people locked in. Hey, we're here to meet every other week to do it, and that's been awesome. That first session was so great. Other than that, it's just been one-shots. Like I said, it's just, I'm on, this is going to be a shout-out to the Titterpig Academy Discord server. It is a server dedicated to us teaching any other game that's not D&D. We want to teach you a game. I'm one of the quote-unquote professors of the academy. But I use that as a place to invite people. Hey, I'm running a game, and a couple other Discord servers. I just try to get people. Hey, let me run a one shot because there's something I want to test, and we go like that.
Yeah, I made the mistake when I was looking for players for my D&D game. I posted there, and who's running it? I forgot.
Oh, Penny.
Her name. Yes, Penny.
Yeah.
Penny was like, "Hey, you're not getting bites because we don't play this game." I'm like, "Oh, my bad," and I deleted it. I'm like,
sorry.
This is a shame.
And it's for us, it has enough of a market share, and we want to see all these other great games have a chance, and also share with people that learning a new game is oftentimes easier than you think, and can be done in 10 minutes. I think a lot of people have a perception from learning D&D first that, it takes a long time to learn a game. We're like, that actually is mechanically on the harder side of things.
Right.
We can play a Honey Heist, and you don't have to know anything about Honey Heist, and I can teach you it too in 5 minutes. Let's go, that kind of stuff. And that's what we want to show and just kind of demonstrate.
Yeah, for sure. No, I was desperate. I just went, hey, the server has a call for things. I've learned my lesson.
It's okay.
But no, I'm always interested in new games and learning new rules. I mean, I feel like because I've played so much of like how to teach people how to learn D&D that I'm just like, I know how to pick things up faster because I need to learn how this individual's brain works into receiving information.
Yes.
In a proper way. For them to be either interested and to encode it properly without them just like having to ask me the same question 30 times.
The best way I've found to get D&D players interested in my game is by saying, how many times have you had to do a roll and you failed and the whole experience was just meh, and you move on. Like the whole thing just falls flat. Okay, well, I failed. And then you move on to the next thing, or you roll again. Like it had no impact. It doesn't do anything. And so I was like, with this game, failure means something. And then I go on to explain it. And that has been something that's grabbed a lot of people. They go, oh, really? And so that's something I've really leaned into, is that, failure pushes the narrative forward. We call it failing forward in a lot of other games. Powered by the Apocalypse, I think, is one of the ones that really talks about that, leans into that. And I wish more games. And in fact, I started rolling that into my 5th edition games. That whole idea. It's like, you know what? I'll give you that you unlocked the door. You failed the check, but we're gonna make something happen on the other side of the door that you weren't expecting. There was some consequence. Something happened that you weren't ready for. We still got you in the room, but we're going to just make the circumstances more difficult than probably they were beforehand. And I think that just kind of helps make things dynamic.
Yeah, no, like I want to say like 2 Saturdays ago, I played a game where for 3 to 4 rounds of combat, I was a low level. I rolled, and I missed every single time, and everybody's falling dead around me, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. I just can't
if I
hit
could roll
anything."
above a 2, I would do it. Yes. Oh no,
Six.
I played a game. I mean, I was in a 10-year-long campaign, and same group of people for 10 years, and I can yes, the amount of nights that we were just like, sorry, Jim. Look, the dice are just kicking our butt. The encounter is not. The dice are beating us, not the encounter. We should be able to handle this just fine. So, but it is. You're just like, well, all right, rolled, hit, failed, roll, hit, failed. All right, next, sit back.
Yeah.
And you wait until your next turn. And I think that's why a lot of people check out between their turn, because if nothing interesting happens, some hit points ticked down. Okay, nothing changed really. So where with the Crypt Has Opened, I have found every person's action, everybody's leaning in, because if they fail, I had one where they there was these things called smoke wolves. The players came up with it. They're like, oh, one of the cryptids in the area that we our greatest what's really harming us is these things called smoke wolves. And I'm like, I have no idea what a smoke wolf is. Apparently it's a real cryptid, but I didn't have time to look it up. So I'm just like, okay. So I decided what it was is like, oh, it's this type of wolf pack that you may see like off in the distance in the moonlight. You think you see the shape of a wolf, and you kind of peer at it, and it's like, oh no, that's just a fog. The fog is playing tricks on me. No, it literally is these wolves that turn into a fog and will follow you, and then turn into their corporeal forms and attack as this fog has surrounded you. So cool. These things were tracking them, and one of the players is like, I want to use some hairspray I have on me, because it's the 90s. Of course, they've got their hairspray for their yeah. And I want to spray it to try to and use some magic to kind of congeal and keep them from they're in their fog form, right? Keep them from changing. And I forget what that roll was. It was like it kind of worked, but some of the wolves didn't get caught. I think of what it was. So some of the fog was still going. It came back around to him. He's like, so there's a bunch of aerosol in the air? I'm like, yeah. He's like, I want to set the aerosol on fire and just catch them all on fire. He failed the roll. And I go, you know what? It works. You catch it on fire. But there was so much aerosol in the air that the back half of the room explodes, throwing him back, setting the back half of the room now just in flames while they've got this giant, like, monster behind them that he was trying to deal with the smoke wolves in the back. The other group was trying to deal with the big bad in the front, and he just blew up the back half of the room. It was like, so now you're dealing with the big monster and the room's on fire. Continue. So to me, that's when that's why everybody's leaning in, because that failure can really change the dynamic real fast. It's and that's what makes the game fun for me, is the challenge of how can I take your success with consequences and your failures and make them interesting and fun, and make it a new challenge, something else for you to overcome, add to the scene, and go from there. So many times I'll take a failure and give it to them in the most monkey's paw way possible. Oh yeah, you succeed, but in the worst way. In a way you did not want to. I don't want to succeed that way.
And now you have 2 monkey's paws.
Yeah.
Not the 2 monkey's paws.
Not monkey paw 2, the full set.
Electric Boogaloo. Yeah. So all those things, and I really owe it to all of the games I've read and that have come before me, like Powered by the Apocalypse, Forged in the Dark, Monte Cook games with Cypher System, all of those really informed a lot of how this game works. And, definitely those are my touchstones as far as other games. If people want to see the underpinnings of how I got here, those are the big three to look at.
Do you have to be a math guy to make a game? Do you have to understand so much math?
No. So, and that was actually a friendly debate we had for a while. So like I said, when I first sat down and started rolling the dice, I wasn't like checking the math. I was going purely by vibes, purely by feel. Does the outcome feel good as a player? And I think that's the most important thing. I think if you try, you may math your way out of a good idea if you start there. That is my hot take. That's my opinion. I don't know if it's a hot take, but I just want to, it's like, hey, does it feel good? Then it's probably working. Now that said, we did come to a point where the very first iteration of this game, we did add the numbers together. And we had a scale of like, if it's a 4 to 5, it's a this. If it's a 6 plus, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Then another, I can't remember who it was. Oh, I'm gonna hate that. But another mutual was like, have you looked at another game called Ironsworn? A little similar. I'd never heard of it before this, but they had a similar kind of rolling mechanic. And theirs is the one that was like, hey, just compare the values. Don't add up numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So now I had two competing resolutions. Well, which one's better? That's when the math was important. And shout out to, again, Penny, who helped a lot with this game from a design consultant. She did a lot. I consulted her with a lot of this stuff. She helped me kind of narrow some things down and work through some of the weeds. But Penny's wrote a script for me that I could put in the different rolls and say, roll this 1,000 times and show me the outcome of 1,000 rolls. And I took all of those and I put them in a spreadsheet of the two competing mechanics to see what the curves would look
bell
like.
curve?
Yeah. And that's how the version that is the current one won out, because I was like, the percentages were a little nicer. We're a little more forgiving that way. They were a lot meaner than the other one. And also it was harder to explain to people. The original way, it was the same kind of resolution, but I'd be like, hey, if these two numbers are higher than the imposition, add them together for your final result. Oh, is the imposition greater than one of them? Then just take the value. And that was a little difficult for people to, once they got into it, they were fine. But that initial explanation was a little too difficult. Where now, if I just say, hey, just worry about the values. Okay. And then people just run with it. And it's been a lot easier. So, and then, but had the statistics been in favor of the original rolling, I would have gone with that one, even though it would be harder to explain. Like, it's a little harder to explain, but trust you're going to want it to be this way, because it's going to, your outcomes are going to be a lot nicer.
You ran the math.
We ran the math.
You're not going to believe it.
You would not. We ran the numbers. And so, yeah, I think personally that I go for that. Get your resolution mechanic feeling really nice, then worry about the numbers. I think if you worry about the numbers to begin with, you're going to get lost in the weeds and, like I said, math your way out of a good idea.
How do you feel like when looking for advice, how do you know who to reach out to? Or is it just like, hey, here's a cool form, splat. Here's what I need help with.
That's a great question. I think when you're first starting out, you want to have a core group of people that you know well and vibe with, and start there. If it's just a nascent idea, right? Because if you throw it out there to a big, wide audience, everybody's going to have an opinion on it. And not everybody knows what you're thinking, and you don't have time to explain, like, well, these are why I'm making the choices that I'm making. And you don't want to field all those things on a Facebook group page of designers. So my advice is, like, find a tight group of people, and I am 2 to 3 other people that you trust and that you vibe with and have this in similar sensibilities for games and the kind of games that y'all make, and just talk it out. Once you have something a little bit more solid, then I think you can open it up to players of those types of games. I don't think you want to go to people that don't play the kind of thing that you're attempting to make. You want to go, okay, for people that play this thing. And this is where my stint as a novel writer comes in, when I went through workshops with a weekly writing group. What I learned through the years of that was how to take advice and what advice I need to listen to and what advice I can throw away. And what I tell people, like, well, what do I know what to listen to? It's very simple to me. If one person has a critique, and they're only that person to ever say that one critique, you're pretty safe to ignore it. That is probably just preference and personal opinion. If 2 people say it, I'll give it a second look. Later, I'll check it out at some point. I'll make a note of it, but it's not in a hurry. If 3 or more people go, this is a problem, it's a problem. And that's the first thing you need to tackle, is whatever 3 or more. And that has served me really well in all these things. Just be like, well, because 2 people that have a problem with it could still be personal preference. But 3 or more, that's a great sign that I got a problem on my hands. I'm going to fix it.
Honestly, I think that's something that can even extend to, like, everything else in your life.
Yes. Yeah. You're not wrong. That's what there's people on different forums. They go to defend their opinion on something. And I'm like, hey, you got 50 people telling you you're wrong. Maybe you should take a step back and go, self-reflection. Maybe I am wrong. Maybe I shouldn't listen to the 2 people saying I'm right. I should listen to the 50. At any rate.
Yeah. No, I agree, because, like, sometimes I'm like, oh, somebody really didn't like that thing about me. Maybe I should change my whole personality and then, like, accommodate for that one person, when in all actuality it is one person that has a problem with the one thing.
Exactly. And then so it is helpful, both, I guess, we've learned today, both for artistic and personal reflection. Yeah.
Everyone's telling you to break up with that person. You should probably break up.
They toxic.
Anyway. But they love me.
But overall, this has been developing this game has been a fantastic experience. Meeting just amazing people. I've designed another game in the middle of this, and so it's just been,
the wheels don't stop.
Dude, there are some people that I'm like, how do you sleep, or when do you sleep rather? Because they come out with stuff once a month, like almost a new thing once a month. All these zines, and I'm like, I can barely keep track of the 2 things that I've got going on. So more power to them.
Yeah.
Because, like, right now, I'm taking this, I'm going to make it into a proper system reference document. So I'm currently stripping out all of the Crypt Has Opened specific terminology and just gonna get it locked in. So then I'll put that up somewhere for people to read and monkey with and have their own fun.
What's your favorite cryptid?
My favorite cryptid is the Ozark Howler.
Okay.
I learned that from my research, and it is basically it's also called the Black Hound, oh crap, now I can't remember, of course, but essentially it is a giant black bear with red eyes and horns, and it has this like piercing howl, and they generally hear it in the Ozarks. My belief is it's probably an escaped big cat that is, out in the woods, out in the Ozarks. Somebody had a pet panther and whoopsie, got away. But these things,
is your home now.
Yeah, this is where I live. Who was it? Expedition X is a great one of those. They hunt cryptids on the show, and the head host on it is Josh Gates, I believe his name is. He used to do a lot of those kind of like, we're going to go, look for this downed plane mystery and all these kinds of really cool things on I think the History Channel, or Discovery Channel, something like that. But they have this Expedition X one where they go look for all the ghosts and the cryptids and all that kind of stuff. And they have an episode on the Ozark Howler, which is really cool. But for our game, I took it. The idea is we're going to take everything and just kind of ramp it up a little bit. And so wherein the Ozark Howler is just supposed to be like kind of normal sized black bear with horns and red eyes. In the Crypt Has Opened, they are about the size of an Asian elephant. Their horns are region dependent. So some may have moose antlers, some may have deer antlers, some may have like antelope kind of horns, like whatever. And they've got human hands. And one of the rumors is, so we throw into like a stat block for a creatures. I'll throw a bunch of lore in there that is there for the Crypt Keeper to decide what's true and what isn't. So we'll give a couple of things in there. So it allows that Crypt Keeper to shape what kind of game they want. And so two of the rumors of the Ozark Howler is they actually are so charismatic, if you will, that they can actually create a pack of bears that follow them. So, it's like you have a pride of lions. You can have this like pack of bears now that all follow around this Ozark Howler. So the idea is like, if you see an Ozark Howler, there's a chance there's a bunch of brown bears and black bears around here as well. All there to help this thing protect its territory. And then the other rumor is that it will actually attract cultists that worship it as a demigod. So what people thought were a pack of bears following this thing around are actually humans in bear pelts and skins who help this thing maintain its territory. So those are two things going on with this particular cryptid. That which one's true, which one isn't?
So what I'm hearing is that, sure, we could be doing cryptids, but we could also be doing Scooby-Doo.
Oh, like, 100%.
Could be cryptids, but also could just be a dude in a mask.
Exactly. It could be the village.
It could be the village!
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Because with the idea of Tales from the Crypt being an inspiration, there is a level of campy horror that you can have in there. Literally, yeah, if you want to do, hey guys, the whole vibe we're doing for this campaign is Scooby-Doo. So let's be silly. 100%. Go for it. That has that capability. Where other people may want to really lean into that grindhouse, gothic horror, Americana horror, and make it real dark and go for it. 100%. I don't know what your rating is for this podcast? If I could tell a story.
Go for it.
Okay. So I would say trigger warning. We're about to get into some body horror for people listening.
Are you okay, Alex?
I'm fine. I'm ready.
Okay.
Jump to 5727 to skip any body horror.
So I have, it's actually in, if you download the PDF, this is in the one-shot adventure that's in the PDF. But I was running it at MomoCon this past couple weeks ago. And it was kind of a Stephen King, The Shining. You have to go to this hotel, and each hotel room that you kind of go into transports you into some kind of vision, and you got to deal with what's going on in that room to break yourself out of it. And the players entered a gym. And there's this woman at the front of the gym. She's got her spandex outfit on with the high socks, fluffy socks, and she's got the headset on. She's like, "Okay, guys, let's go." And there's another guy lifting weights and all this kind of stuff, fly weights and all that kind of stuff. Well, they were there to try to find where all the council members from their town went, and here they are. They got put into this room, 3 of them, and they realize those council members have been there for the past 15 hours working out without stopping. And so I'm like, yeah, you realize the woman at the front dancing, her feet are bloody and ripped up. And at one point, you hear her ankle break and you see the bone snap through. You look over and you see the guy who's doing the dumbbells. His bicep has ripped from his arm, and he's just flopping his arms around, unable to lift the thing anymore. The guy doing the bench press, what's it called? Fly, whatever. You can see I don't work out. Anyway, his pectoral muscles are just bruised and bleeding underneath because it's just so. Anyway, that you can lean in really heavily into that. Yes, to get that kind of reaction.
I love body horror. Can you tell? I love it.
It's so good.
It's my favorite. I am not crying at all.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I hope I didn't.
It's okay.
Okay. Any rate, untrigger warning. We're done. Skip to whatever
this o'clock.
This o'clock. But yeah, that kind of you can lean into that kind of stuff for the players that love that and push things to that level, or not. Hey, they're just working out and they've been there for a while and they seem exhausted. Right. You can either one. Which for some people, that's enough of a horror, being stuck in a place, unable to move or unable to leave against your own will. That's enough horror for some people, and that's all they need to feel the same feelings as others. At any rate,
how you feeling, Alex?
I love it. It's great.
Listen,
no, honestly,
you have your opportunity.
I know, I know, but it is one of those things that just going to a haunted house, right? It's not my favorite. But part of the joy is the fact that I am very uncomfortable, and that's okay. And I know that's part of it. I'm not looking at it, and that's the other thing is that I'm not looking at it. Looking at it is completely different, right? I am not a Saw girly. I am not a horror movie girly.
Yeah.
We can talk about it, and it can be in the audio format, and it's going to stay in the audio format. Mm-hmm. Once we start getting
visual,
yeah. I'm out. Okay?
Oh yeah,
I'm out.
We watched
Check, please.
We watched Stephen King's Dr. Sleep, that movie that came out. I don't know if you've seen that. There is a scene with a 12-year-old boy that was so disturbing. I have an 8-year-old son, and I was watching that scene. We were all in a well-lit living room. And I just stood up and I was like, let me know when this is over. I'll come back. And I was like, this is too close to reality. Yeah. And that was the first time I realized, like, oh, I have a new thing to add to my triggers, which is harm to children. Prior to that, I could handle it. Nope, not anymore. And, I think that's when we're talking about horror games, if we want to get into that. In The Crypt Has Opened, we do have a section in the book that talks about session zeros, lines and veils. You need to have these discussions when starting these kinds of games, what your players are and are not comfortable with, because that's very important to have a safe game. Having lines and veils does not mean, oh, this game's not going to be fun. We just need to know where everybody's at, so we can get up to the line maybe and see where people are at, and they know that at any moment they can pull that trigger and pull that ripcord and go, nope, I didn't realize this was a problem for me that we just entered. I have a new thing.
We love learning about ourselves in RPGs.
Yep. Finding new things every day.
That's it, yeah. Very important.
Amazing.
Honestly, this looks amazing. So I downloaded it while we were talking.
Oh, cool.
I absolutely want to go play it. Like I'm really, and I also appreciate. I don't know if anybody else is appreciating this for you or telling you. Your like personal notes on the side are my favorites. So if you want to keep those, please do. But I know that it's still in like progress and maybe it's unprofessional, whatever. I enjoy the like little sarcastic notes that show up on the side every once in a while.
Yeah, it's like, because I have those side columns really there for referencing. Hey, this thing was mentioned here, so because the PDF is hyperlinked, so if you click on the numbers, it will take you instantly to that page. So, but I have these big empty spaces, so sometimes I'm just like, I just want to talk about the decisions I made and why I did what I did here, or just tell a funny anecdote.
And I think it'd be honestly at the end of printing or whatever, I think those would be useful. Those make like, especially talking about like Tales from the Crypt, that makes sense, right? So even doing them as like little boxes that are like the thought bubbles or whatever, like it's the vibe. It still vibes.
Yeah, we'll have to think about it, because my dream, I don't think it's going to happen because I'm realizing the length of the book might not let this happen. But my dream was, do I have one here, is to make it look like a Wizard magazine, a 1990s. Do you know what I'm talking about? Wizard magazine. Do I have one? Hold on. Oh, no. I have them around here somewhere. Any rate, yes, here it is. So I would want it to be a soft cover, like actual magazine that you would look like a comic book, but it's the game book. I would want it to have breakout ads that are in-world ads. So you could have like a kid who's unboxing the new Nintendo Wand 3000, and like the light is shining on his face. He's like, oh,
yeah,
blowing his hair back. Get the new, whatever. And those kinds of, just that kind of in-world fun stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to.
But you could do stuff like thanking people too. Like those could be the people that have like
Oh yeah,
listen,
100%.
Don't let your dreams be dreams. Okay. I want the hard copy. Thank you. I will take the hard copy.
Okay.
For sure.
Let's see. This is 198 pages. Maybe I can get away with it.
Yeah.
Because the rules are right now 80 pages alone, so that's not including cryptids, organizations, any of the lore stuff. I'm like, ooh. That's getting.
Oh, no. What? Are you kidding me?
Too many
books.
Like
8. I have like 8 Dungeons and Dragon books. It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. Just do it. I don't know. I've gotten so many other books lately that are so self-contained. It was just nice to be like, that's the one book I need to run the whole thing.
No,
We'll see.
Give me all of them. It's
Give
fine.
me all of them.
I will take all. Once again, I will take all of them. I am customer 1 of 1.
There we go.
I will take all of the
Perfect.
books, and then you can like expand. But like, so even the marketing is so good.
I do plan on modules are probably really where it's going to be like a comic book. So we'll release modules that are, here's the module, it's the comic book, and the first 3 or 4 or 5 pages are comic book panels that you would show the players, right? They could look at those panels like that's the beginning of the adventure, that's the setup, maybe that's some like previously on, and they can read that kind of stuff, but then the rest of the modules is the game in the book. So that I know for certain that's how that's going to be. All modules are going out, and then you can collect them in an omnibus, like a trade paperback magazine, right? So all of that I've got. It's the main book that it may have to be 3. I don't want it to be 3. I would love it for it to be self-contained. Mainly because I really want to push for including Central and South America as places to set your game in. Mm-hmm. And I'm getting writers from Central and South America to write those areas. Central America has been very difficult to find writers, but Brazil and Argentina apparently are teeming with writers. I've gotten a lot of great responses from that area, and it's been fantastic to see. So I'm in contacts with a few people there to pull in. Yeah, because it's like I want cryptids and mythology from that area, and it's not
from those people.
From those, I'm not, because the way this game is written, we have magical traditions, right? But I don't ever specify any tradition. Right. We do very umbrella terms. So of the traditions that you can pick from are ancestral, nature, anti-theist, hierarchical, magic school, new wizard, and I think I'm missing one. But anyway, those are very like
umbrella terms,
broad-stroked kind of things that allow then the player to write in what their specific traditions are. And the example I give is, the Celts are worshipped nature and have kind of a nature traditions. But so do the Native Americans. But they're very different, right? Mm-hmm. But they fall under that kind of that basic idea. So that's when I realized, it's like, I need to kind of have these terms for how do you represent that? How do you do that? While paying respects to that there are closed practices, there are real-world magical traditions with real closed traditions, and I'm not here to gamify your religion.
Right.
So, and that's kind of how that really was a big tentpole in creating this game, something I really kind of set in front of me when writing everything. I was like, okay, keep this in mind at all times. Make sure we don't break that pole, if you will. And so that's when I was like, okay, bring in the people that do know. So if the people that do know, I can allow them and give them the space and the freedom to put in the things that they know are open and can be discussed in a book and be really cool and write them authentically. Because I'm not going to be able to.
Alex, you should do Skinwalker Ranch.
You can't do that. You can't say that. It's once
again. Really?
Yep. Wendigos are explicitly not in this game. not in this world, because they
that.
are a very held sacred thing within native communities. Yeah, so that's one of those ones.
That's why it was a thing.
Yeah.
That's why it was a problem in my classroom. That I was like, listen, we don't fuck with this.
Yeah. In fact, I was reading about one that's this cryptid kind of spirit thing that sounded really cool. Oh, there's this guy walking down the street late at night. People had all these stories about him, and then it got to the reality of it was he was a military veteran with scarring on his face, and he walked at night because that was the only time he could go out and get exercise when people wouldn't see him. And I felt horrible when I was like, oh, I'm going to write this. Sounds so great. And I'm like, wow, this is why you need to be careful. And you really need to do your research and understand where these things are coming from. Because the story behind it might not be a story that you want to gamify.
Right.
You really need to be careful. So that's why I stick to things like, the Ozark Howler, things that, especially the Jersey Devil, Chupacabras, things where they can point to, we know exactly when this story was made, who made it up, when it first, because the Chupacabra, if I remember correctly, was a DJ in Florida, was the first ever recording of it being a thing. So it's like, okay, they're fun. We can write up those things. Mothman, of course, is a big one because there's statues of that guy everywhere, and everybody loves that thick cake. look at, if your listeners have never seen the statue of the Mothman, go look him up.
It's so good.
It's got some 3 C's. That's how thick he is.
There's so many C's there.
Oh,
so many.
It's so great. What is funny about a lot of my research is finding out that Bigfoot is ubiquitous. Every state has and it's starting to feel like, well, do I include Bigfoot? It's too now. It feels like it's too. You have to, but
too mainstream for you. Too mainstream.
Right, but then almost every state has some kind of sea serpent. Some kind of Nessie. There's so many of those. Just look it up. It's like sea serpent, this lake serpent, this thing. I'm almost been like, oh, here's just a category, and you figure it out from there. The Ogopogo is one up in the Northwest. I just love the name, the Ogopogo. Any rate. So.
I'm glad that there was some there's definitely intentionality. You're what hey man.
Yeah, no. It means a lot to me to be respectful of people, and like I was saying, hey, we're dealing with magic, and I have friends that are magical practitioners, which is why in the book I never say wizard or witch. We just say magical practitioners. That is the common parlance within the world. When you don't know what somebody practices, you just, they're a magical practitioner. And then it's up to that individual to say, oh, I'm a witch. Oh, I'm a warlock, or I'm, whatever. In fact, we have a organization, I'm going to not remember their name now. We just used them, but they are actually a religious organization of magical practitioners, and then it's up to the players and the Crypt Keeper to determine how deep down Judeo-Christian do you want them to go or not go, or do you want them to be kind of a generic religious order, or what have you. So that's also something when running these games, you're gonna have to take a table by table basis, and I always encourage people, because that was mid game. I had an idea of what I wanted to do with them, but I stopped and just made sure, hey, are we all cool if I go down this rabbit hole, or do we want to keep it more generic? Where do we want this line to be? And only one person at the table was like, I don't want to go down that road. All right, then we don't. We don't.
Right.
It's not majority rule. It's my philosophy is if it hurts one person, that's enough to stop. Right. If one person is harmed, that's enough. They don't get, we don't steamroll just one person just because the majority of people say no. There's nuance to it, but that's the general.
Yeah, the general
starting
rule.
point. Yeah. Anyway, what was I talking about?
Oh, just a little bit of
everything.
Crypt Has Opened. No worries.
Yeah.
Alex, any final questions? We've hit and passed the hour mark.
I don't have any questions, but I did look up specifically cryptids in Texas. San Antonio, man. Donkey Lady?
La
San
Llorona?
Antonio. No.
Donkey Lady.
The
Oh,
Donkey
okay.
Lady of San Antonio.
I know I've heard of him,
That's
but
so
I didn't
good.
see what it means. But
Well-
I've also heard of like, they made a movie about it, like La Llorona, which is like the
Ooh.
crying lady who just like, she's
not a
always by
donkey
rivers.
lady.
She's crying because I think her child had passed away, had like fallen into a river, died. She's crying there, and then you get close to her, and she says, "Have you seen my son?" and grabs you and puts you into the river.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, I
That's
went
a
to
good
a ghost
Oh, those are
like
similar. Yeah.
I guess tour,
Mm-hmm.
and this was when I was young, so I was super scared already. I'm
Oh,
like, I
yeah.
don't want to go. No, they're just
So
talking
good.
about it. I thought we're going into a building and getting scared.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good, though. Well, there's a good friend of mine, Adam, was like, you got to do the Dogman of Wexford County. It's up in Michigan. And it's in the book, the picture of the Dogman that I drew, which is very different than what all the pictures are found. The Dogman looks like a werewolf, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's so boring. Werewolves exist. So I was thinking about the name, and I was like, it's a dogman. So I don't know if I can. So I was like, what if it literally is like a bulldog-looking kind of guy in overalls with a hatchet? So he's just that's all he wears is just a pair of dirty overalls. Looks like a pit bull dog face, and he has a hatchet. Perfect. That's what I'm talking. That's a dog man.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. As soon as you said Pitbull, I'm like, Mr. Worldwide just like popped in my fucking head.
Perfect. But that's
What if Mr. Worldwide
that's
is
the
a
campiness
cryptid
side
we
of
just
things that I
accept?
wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're getting somewhere. That does remind me. There's if people want to also kind of like a touchstone for media to kind of get an idea of what we're going for as well, they can look at Lockwood and Company. It's a Netflix TV series that only had one season, but it's also a book series. And it's just like there are pockets of spirit hunters, like organizations, and the two main characters like have their own private investigation. He's self-funded because his parents are rich. She can see spirits, but
dream.
but like they have all of these gadgets, and like you have to have a silver rapier. Like everybody that goes through the schooling has to be trained with these silver rapiers because that's the only way you can hurt spirits. They have like a talking head in a jar that they consult all the time, and it's this really cool stuff. And that's one of those things like take the 90s aesthetic, put it with this, like if you want to play a game, it's like, yeah, we're a group, we run an organization, and we get hired out to go take care of people's problems. Totally a game type to do. So that's one I talk to people, I was like, go check that out. And I'm really sad it only had one season because it was really good. But that's Netflix for you.
Isn't it? It's
Yeah.
classic, just fucking pump and dump. Hey, the numbers show that this is good, but people aren't going to come back. They're like,
Yeah.
later, let people fucking rest.
They're not
Whatever,
watching it
Netflix.
continuously like The Office.
We laugh so we don't cry.
Any rate, the end. I'm taking y'all to the hour and a half mark, so I'll let y'all close it up.
It's okay. No worries. We're here now. We out here. Where can they find you?
Yeah, so, like you said at the beginning, we are Win Suddenly Games. So, Win Suddenly Games. All social media. Primarily, I use TikTok, but we are on Twitter as Win Sudden Games because it was too long. But we're on Win Sudden Games on Twitter, but then Threads and Blue Sky and all those fun things. But Facebook, you name it. Well, you can go to our website, winsuddenly.games, and there you can download the game for free right now. All the character sheets. There's a reference document there as well. That kind of a quick 2-pager so you can know how the game is played. And there's an adventure in the book. So if you want to run that little module for people, it's right there. We also have a Discord channel. Just Win Suddenly Games on Discord. It has an open invite. And I need to check if it's on the website. But we have that. And currently we're running a campaign on the website. But we're getting more and more people joining in. And if you're somebody that just needs a place to run the game, the Discord is open for people to run their own games if they want to. They don't have to wait on me. And then all I ask is that if people download the game and play it with their home group, please email me, jeff@winsuddenly.games. Tell me how it went. I want to know. And I will also send you all a Google form to questionnaire to just fill out with your thoughts. That'll help me make this game even better as we gear up for publication in the distant future. It's going to be a while, but we are heading towards a publication, which will include all the lore settings and all that kind of stuff.
All right. Awesome.
Thank you, dear listener, for joining us on another episode. You can find us on all social medias at Dungeon N, the letter N, as in no more school. Sure, yep. Degrees with the S at the end. You can also find us on Discord and Patreon, and you can find Adrian and I posting on our regular social medias if you also just want to follow us there. I don't know why you would, because I'm just going to post nothing but like school stuff and dog things, and Adrian is going to post about how amazing he is at playing Dungeons and Dragons and other tabletop RPGs. But if you are interested, look, you can always reach out to us personally. We will be at Gen Con at the end of the summer or the beginning of August. So if you are going, say hello.
We've
Maybe
got
not
stickers. Come attack us.
We have stickers. We have pencils. Honestly, we have pencils.
Pencils?
Take my pencil. Yeah. We have branded pencils. Because we're playing tabletop games.
Now I need to get branded pencils.
Right? I got them when I was
have
little,
two.
and I'm obsessed with like pencils with like my name on them. But look, yeah, they just have little. Yeah.
Amazing.
This is good for nobody except for the YouTube. So I got branded pencils if you ever find me in the wild. Yeah.
Great.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening. My name's Adrian.
And I'm Alex.
And I'm Jeff.
Go have some fun.
Boop.